Listen. Welcome to the LME live streams here on this Letterboxd Monday. What is it? December 21st, I believe. Yeah,
21st.
we're already
Yeah.
rounding out 2020, but we're back to talk about all of the movies that came out this past weekend throughout all of the streaming services, as you see them right there. Netflix won it for me this time around, but if this is the first time you're watching, we pretty much log all of the movies that we were able to catch this past weekend that's on streaming, VOD, virtual theaters, all that good stuff, and at the same time, have you guys right there on the chat, as you can see. As always, Zach is here with me, making sure that he's going to be collecting your questions, so we answer it at the end. So Zach, what was the most hype thing you saw this past weekend?
Ooh, the most hype thing I saw this past weekend. Well, there's a movie coming out in a few days that I liked quite a bit. We were talking about. I don't know if we're gonna spoil that now or save it for later, but um,
You saw
Ma
Soul.
Rainey's Black Bottom was also really good. Yeah, I saw Soul.
You can't even spoil it.
Disney, Pixar's, Pete Docter's Soul. Yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty good. So we'll be covering that one.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll cover that one next week. I really like that one as well. But
Same.
because it's Letterbox Mondays, we just like to cover the stuff that you guys can catch at the moment right now. We break it down according to the categories. I'm trying to work on a little ESPN ticker thing at the bottom, so then that way in the future you guys will be able to flip through it. But right now it's live, so shout out to those watching live. Can't really skip forward, but we can start with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Zach, what do you think about this one?
It's an interesting one. It's, of course, the latest in the series of Tennessee Williams, or not Tennessee Williams, excuse me,
August Wilson.
August Wilson adaptations that Denzel Washington is producing after Fences. And, of course, is the last performance we're getting from Chadwick Boseman. And it's really Chadwick Boseman who is just so electrifying throughout this that kept me interested. He's so good in this movie that you just want to watch every move he makes, even though his character is very manic. And ultimately, I feel like some of the mood swings of this movie undercut the tension for me. I was more into the performances than I was the story itself.
Interesting. I really liked it. I heard a lot of people talking about the idea of like what happens when a play is too playish, and it's interesting comparing this to One Night in Miami that's about to come out because they both kind of
Right.
take place in single location. So I see it more as a bottle film, but a lot of people were hyping up Chadwick Boseman. I I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think he was gonna live up to the hype. The father, what's his name? He's got to be a little worried right now because I think if they are positioning your boy as lead, Chadwick
Sir
Boseman,
Anthony Hopkins,
Sir
yeah.
Anthony Hopkins, I thought was a lock. I did not believe the hype. Believe the hype. Chadwick Boseman, I think, killed it in this performance. There is a sequence in where he is arguing with Coleman Domingo, who is fantastic in this movie as well. He's arguing with the bosses. He's trying to argue against Viola Davis. He argues with the Lord. Like there is a sequence where he just has his entire monologue. I thought it was fantastic. He is a standout. Viola Davis also did a fantastic job as well, but I was surprised how much of the movie focuses on Chadwick's character. So, I highly recommend this one's over on Netflix, and I really like that they even released a making of featurette to go along with it as soon as you watch the movie. It plays. So, highly recommend Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I would have liked to have seen this one in theaters. I thought it was pretty dope.
Yeah, it might have also contributed to that building energy of the movie
For sure.
to see in a theater like that.
A couple of other ones that are playing over on Netflix right now is The Professor and the Madman. I don't know if you've heard about this movie at all. As you can see, it stars some of the best gentlemen in Hollywood.
What would have been like an all-star cast in 2008.
Right? Yeah. So I caught this one because I had seen it. It was on my radar for a little bit, and then it popped up on Netflix. It's also on Canopy, which is kind of like HOOPLA, so you can watch it for free. It's pretty much just the creation of the Oxford English Dictionary. And I found it to be kind of interesting. They have a lot of back and forth as they're trying to create it. And in the meantime, he's seeking out the help of the character who's played by Sean Penn, who is in jail because of murder. And they have this whole back and forth going on, not only of how they're going to get this done, but also like they get to choose what's going to be in the dictionary or not. And there's this beautiful back and forth between it. I thought it was a decent little movie. I would personally, recommend it. I give it 3.5 stars. So if you're interested in catching kind of
Nice.
a historical movie, this one's up over on Netflix, beautifully shot, as well as Rose Island. This one came out a couple of weeks back, And I thought it was a TV series, so I didn't catch it right away. It turns out it is a movie, which is a lot easier to consume. And it's actually based off of a true story. This is a movie that talks about this dude who decided to just do everything on his own. He believes that if you build a car, you don't need a permit, you don't need a license. He built it. So he decides to create something. Let me see as I fast forward over here. An island in the middle of nowhere, international ground, so that he should be able to do whatever he wants. I found it fascinating. Obviously the dealings with bureaucracy, but just the back and forth and the craziness of the parties that he threw here. I thought it was really interesting because it's based off a true story. So again, this is not a series like I thought it was originally. It's actually a movie, and I would also give this one 3.5 stars. So Netflix had a decent amount of movies right now to catch. I know they have a buttload of series as well. As I pull up over here, they have I don't know if you've heard of Tiny Pretty Things.
It's another in the little 3-word Pretty Little Liars and Big Little Lies. There's a lot of these shows coming out for some reason.
Yeah.
That's as far as I know about it.
There's also Alice in Borderland, which this is actually one that I want to make a full video on because people have been recommending this bad boy for a bit. The Ripper. There's this little docu-series Netflix has on Jack the Ripper. So hopefully I'll be able to catch that one soon. But this was probably the most interesting series that I saw. Break It All. It's pretty much the history of Latin American rock. I had my mom watch this one, and she knew all of the bands because she was a disc jockey back in the day. So I think this one is probably going to be the first in my watch list to catch out of all the shows. But yeah, Netflix has been putting out 10 hours of content per show, and then they had a decent amount of movies as well. So moving on to the VODs, I finally had the chance to catch another round.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to catch it another time, though, because I was drinking as much as these gentlemen were in the movie. But his performance, that final sequence as well, which they kind of have, there's a alternative poster than this one right here. Fantastic. I think him and even a couple of the other guys. There's one of the dudes who comes into a meeting as they're obviously experimenting with the idea of microdosing, because I don't know if you remember who they quoted or whatnot about how the human body itself has 0.05.
These 4 friends who are high school teachers are testing this theory that the human body would function better at a 0.05 blood alcohol level. So not drunk, but buzzed, consistently buzzed.
Yeah.
And that leads them on this experiment to just consistently drink throughout their lives for more confidence and a little bit more social lubrication.
They're teachers. The stuff that they go through. There's specifically one meeting where one of the guys comes in and he is completely gone. It's funny, but it's not funny at the same time. I highly recommend this one. I'm hoping that he gets a nomination. I'm pretty sure this is going to get an international nomination as well, considering how many people have been hyping this up since it played at TIFF and a lot of the festivals. So it's definitely one to look forward to. And you can own it now, which I like. I know in the virtual festivals when we first shouted it out, it was $12. Now you can own it for $12. You don't even have to rent it. So a couple of other fest picks that I have over here. This is also an international movie right here. I was able to catch this at SLIF, good old SLIF, St. Louis International Film Festival. This movie is crazy. I'm going to buy this one, so you're going to make sure to check it out on Vudu when I get it. There's 5 different stories, I think, going on in where one dude finds a bag of money. Somebody else may have lost a bag of money. Somebody else may have found a dead body. And all of these storylines are interconnecting at certain points and others. It is riveting. This is one of those movies that you catch at a festival, and it's clearly the standout. I don't know if this would have played as a midnight or something, if it would have played in some of the other ones. And I'm not sure what the category was for some of the other ones, but I believe, don't quote me on this, this got a shout out by a director as well. It could have been Quentin. I'm not sure. But I highly, highly recommend this movie. Definitely check this one out on VOD. It's a really good thriller, very suspenseful. Alina liked it even more than I did, so that should tell you something. I think a lot of people, if they give this one a chance, it is a foreign film. I believe it's South Korean, if I'm not mistaken. But very well made. It has you at the edge of your seat the entire time. And the performances, because like I said, there's 5 different stories going on at the same time. You start rooting for some people, so when they start interacting, it gets really, really good.
Yeah, Yara Zaidi, or Zaid, I don't know how to pronounce her name. put her best movies of the year list out and had it on it. And I
Really?
hadn't heard much about it, so I'm definitely
Oh,
intrigued.
dude.
I've had 2 recommendations in one day for it.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. So I'd highly recommend this one. It is on VOD right now, and I think it's worth the price. But we also have Marona's Fantastic Tale. This is a movie. This is that animation that a lot of people don't bring up at the end of the year just because they haven't seen it, because it hasn't gotten that push. If not, I believe it would have been on the top 5. It doesn't have a chance beating out, the Pixar movie we just recently caught, but this is a movie about a dog, and it's kind of told in reverse, and where you're following the dog early on as it has its owner. Just beautiful animation, as you can see right here as well. And it's telling the story in reverse through the different owners that the dog has had as it, leads back up to the ending, which is really the beginning. But this is animation to its fullest, man. We're talking just like the creativity that this has, because everything's so much, it's way more fluid. There's the logic in animation that can be anything you want it to be. This takes it to its fullest potential. It's a dog story, so I don't think I need to spoil what that means. But again, a beautiful tale. If you have a dog, I think you're going to love this one. I think it would be at the top of your list. Definitely at the top of your animation list if you got the chance to check this one out, and it's out on VOD.
Very cool. I'm always interested in a feature movie where the animation style is a little bit less rigid than we get in a lot of the more mainstream animated products, where they're taking some bigger drawing risks.
For sure. And look at that. It's out on Hoopla, as we always say. Look at that. So
Hoopla.
Boom. You could even save yourself the, $4 to rent or $12 to buy, and you can get it on Hoopla if you got yourself a library card. I highly recommend it for sure. Another one that I bought, though, sticking with, I think we have a couple more VODs right here, was this movie called The Last Blockbuster. I'm obviously a Blockbuster kid. I grew up with Blockbuster. Absolutely adore it. And this is the story about the Last Blockbuster that's open over in Oregon, I believe. Bend, Oregon. They asked the people, why do you think it's still open over there? They're like, I don't know. Maybe because they're all old people who don't know streaming. They don't have the internet. I bought this one. I thought it was fascinating that they were able to get like the actual top dogs from Blockbuster. They have this woman right here is the one who runs it, and they call her Blockbuster Mom because not only has she gone through all of the kids who are at the high school, this has been their first job, but now they have their own kids, so she's technically Blockbuster Grandma, and it kind of covers it from the perspective of her being this woman who is fighting to keep a mom and pop shop, ironically, considering that Blockbuster was one of the big rental stores that took out a lot of mom and pop shops. But I think it's an interesting look at not just her perspective of being the last Blockbuster, but they get a lot of interviews and they go all the way to see how Blockbuster became how it was. And you know me, I love that they don't keep it all sugar-coated. They tell you the mistakes Blockbuster did. They tell you the things Blockbuster did wrong. The only things I think take away a little bit from it is some of the directing, some of the editing. It's not as funny as it could be. They have some anecdotes from some of the people who they interview, and it's like, that's special to you, but it's not really special when you hear it in the documentary.
Right.
My bias would give it 4 stars. I honestly think it's 3.5. But I'm going to go with me really enjoying it. And again, maybe don't rent it or buy it. Wait for it to be on streaming for most people. But for $4, I think it's worth watching it if you were a fan of Blockbuster. Because, hey,
Right.
if you were picking this up at a Blockbuster, it would still be $4 to pick up as well. So fascinating look at the creation of Blockbuster and this one little shop that's still up.
Can you really put a price on that kind of nostalgia?
No, but I'm also really big against nostalgia, and they're not going to dupe me now that we're getting to the 90s nostalgia. But I do recommend it. I thought it was a very well done documentary. Greenland is also available out on VOD, as you can see right here. Is it going to be worth $19.99 for everybody? Maybe if you live in a Dolby Cinema, but surprisingly, I enjoyed it. My mom is a huge Gerard Butler fan, and I enjoy his presence as well. And this is his new movie where, surprisingly, he's not playing like the Gerard Butler the hero. He's playing Gerard Butler the family man, and it is much more of a family movie than it is like, your generic asteroid hitting movie or it's a comet. Sorry, they make a big deal about that comet that's coming to hit the Earth. It is that, but the guy who wrote it said he had based it off of The Impossible. So it is much more of that family drama that's happening in the midst of this apocalyptic event. Originally, Neil Blomkamp was going to make this movie, and I believe it was Chris Evans who would have played the role, but it ended up going to the dude who did the Angel Has Fallen movie with him last time. So this guy's had a record of them just making all of these movies together. It's Greenland, Angel Has Fallen, and I think they have one more coming out. So if you're a fan of Gerard Butler and you like your destruction movies, pay the $19.99. I'd say wait for it to get a little cheaper. I think at $9.99 it's worth to rent it. But it would have done well if it was an IMAX for sure. That said, this is one of the worst written characters I've seen all year. As I'm zooming in over here on Run. Oh, poor her. They had her do some of the dumbest things in the movie, but nonetheless, I know some people have been waiting for this one. It got delayed so many times, so now it's out.
That feels like one of the classic movies that you kind of really want to watch in a movie theater.
Yep.
Just to experience like the bigness of it, the epicness of the scale that they're trying to project. And I don't know if that's going to work the same way for a lot of people at home, but a lot of people seem to watch these movies at home too. So maybe not at $19.99, but once it gets bumped down to a more affordable price, be worth some people's time.
For sure. I know another one that's out right now is The Croods. I am not paying $19.99 for this one, but I haven't heard too many terrible things about it. I would say wait because I feel it's going to come out on Peacock. And Peacock, I'm working on an end of the year state of streaming video. Dude, Peacock, we're not paying attention to it. And they're doing some stuff in the background, man. They're getting ready. That's all I'm going to say. So for The Croods, it's clearly a Universal movie. I'm sure, just like Trolls, it'll be up there very soon. So I'd say wait for it. Don't pay the $19.99 and have your kids rack up all those charges. But in the complete opposite side of cartoons meant for the whole family, there is this documentary that we all got to catch, I believe, back at Sundance called Happy Happy Joy Joy, the Ren and Stimpy story. Alina was a big fan of Ren and Stimpy growing up, so we all, I think, woke up really early to catch this one. And it was cool to see the creation of Ren and Stimpy and all the different things that that went behind the show. And even more so, the idea that he was one of the first dudes to put created by at the end, kind of doing his artistic stamp. And then there's the second half of the movie that comes up with a lot of accusations that have happened with this creator. I know, Zach, you didn't like it as much, but I think we have the same rating to it, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting archive of a really monumental piece of animation. And I think it is interesting the way that it tries to reckon with Crickfile Lucy, I think his last name is pronounced, his tainted legacy because of his sexual misconduct. It puts this stain on a show that was a huge part of a lot of comedy people's education and, changed both comedy and animation in many ways. I think that because I have, speaking of nostalgia, none for Ren and Stimpy,
that's fair,
that I was less into this one just because, I mean, it always creeped me out as a kid. So I don't know. It's an interesting story, but I'm not sure it transcends beyond its subject matter as a documentary.
I feel you. The one thing I wish they did is once they get to the deep stuff at the end, that everybody who they had boasting about the show and how it was everything to them, I wish they kept them there. I was curious to see what they had to say about this as well, because it kind of leaves you, the audience, to be like, so what do you think? Are you going to continue watching it? And it's like, well, what about all the celebrities you just set down? But I know a lot of people are big fans of Ren and Stimpy, and at least that first half, it was a very interesting story about the creative process and then the reckoning that comes with it many times as well. Really quick, Starbucks Unfiltered. I just thought this was funny. It's on Tubi, so you can catch it for free with ads. It's an investigation on Starbucks, and there's kind of like a claim that that Starbucks has kind of been belittling this movie, so now it's out there to watch with ads, talking about how Starbucks is this big corporation that's just selling you sugar at $5 a grande? $5 a grande. I was only able to catch a little bit, but like I said, it's over on Tubi, which is another streaming service that I think is just going to be blowing up because Tubi's completely free. You don't even need... Oh, it's on HOOPLA as well. But Tubi's completely free. You don't even need a login. Like, HOOPLA is free, but you need a library card. Tubi, you don't need anything. They don't ID you. You don't even need a mask. Nothing. You just walk in there. You can play whatever you want. So it's also a little shout out to Tubi as well, in case you haven't seen that one. But we've done Netflix. We've done the VOD. Amazon had the biggest rollout this week, man. We had a bunch of stuff, but let's talk about this first one right here, Small X.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is basically Steve McQueen recommendation stream every week for the past 5 weeks or so now.
Everything we do is just about Steve McQueen at this point.
Yeah, we should basically change our whole premise to being a Steve McQueen appreciation podcast. Uh, we've been pushing all of the Small Axe films because they're extraordinary, and it's awesome to be getting so many new movies from Steve McQueen in such a quick succession. But I think we both agree that he's wrapping it up here with one of the best in the bunch.
I gave, what was it? Red, White, and Blue 5 stars. I stick by that. I think this is right behind it, but it is top of the bunch. Education, Red, White, and Blue were my favorites. Your favorites were?
Uh, Mangrove and Lovers Rock.
Mangrove and Lovers Rock right here. And then boom and boom from me. Shout out Alex Weedle as well, but shout out the entire damn series that can be an individual movie when it needs to be, and depending on your critic circle, can also be the winner of Best Pictures, as some people have been making fun of. But I'm curious, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the Los Angeles Film Critics Association gave out their, or voted on their end of year awards over the weekend, and among giving best screenplay to Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman, a movie that we're
Dope.
definitely excited to talk about probably next week, and giving out, I think it was best actress also to Carey Mulligan, best director to Chloe Zhao. They gave best film to Small Axe the series,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of changes your definition of film. I think David Ehrlich said on Twitter, at least call it the best pictures.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a subversion of the idea of what we're expecting for the awards, but it also is like, it's just a Critics Association award. It's not really that big of a deal. I think they're just trying to call attention to Small Axe. I think they
Yep.
would be better served
Yep.
calling attention to one of the Small Axe movies, like maybe pushing behind Mangrove or Lovers Rock to get some kinds of awards momentum. But I'm not Justin Chang. What do I know?
It's interesting because I'm not against it too much. You and I have had these conversations since 2016 about the merging of movies and TV, but it is called a collection of 5 films, and it's almost like they overdid themselves. Where is it TV? Is it movies? And people were having that argument until everyone realized, yo, we're disrespecting the director who is calling it 5 films. Now we're doing a little too much trying to call it one film. He never said it was that. He said they all work together. And I think the most interesting thing about the Critics Circle was that they gave Lovers Rock an individual award, but then combined them when it comes to like a bigger award. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
I
where
believe
it
they
gets
also
tricky.
I believe they also gave the collection of Small Axe films best cinematography.
Okay. Well, would you put them all as one?
I just don't think that's quite fair. The Oscars put in new rules after OJ Made in America won for best
Mm-hmm.
documentary, precisely because it kind of feels like it's stretching the limits of what a movie is. And as I argued to you before, there's nobody who's sitting down, especially not in a movie theater, watching Small Axe back to back to back to back to back. They're
Agreed.
great movies, but they are individual movies. Even if they speak to each other, they're not one long movie.
Exactly, and that's why it's a collection of 5 films, and that's why I feel like they overdid themselves of trying to like really stamp in. Okay, we stand with the director to the point that we're gonna just make them one. But I don't know, it's interesting. I'm not that much against it. I find it funny how each critic circle is gonna be changing the rules. For personal list, put them all together as one. I really don't care. But it's when it comes to these institutions where they are actually fighting for awards, campaigning for awards, that. It's not fair for Nomadland to go up against 5 movies, even if I do prefer the other 5 movies. But nonetheless, yeah, you brought up OJ Made in America, another one that I would highly recommend, and one of the ones that just got to squeak through and be able to make it in before the rule changes. But hey,
Yeah.
Small X, Small X, Small X, Small X, Small X. Watch it when you can.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
Education, really great.
Fantastic. The Swerve. This was a little movie that I kept getting emails for. They were pushing the actress. They said, "Yo, is there a Sky?" I feel like I know her. I've read the name so many times in my emails. This is a movie dealing almost like a Rorschach, I would say, is how they pitched it, where you can see it from different perspectives. From her perspective, is she overseeing things? Is she not overseeing things? Is everything that you're seeing actually happening? Is she going, and spiraling down because of her paranoia, because of a mental illness. I think it's a really well done independent movie. I thought her performance was pretty solid. It's pretty much this woman who feels that her husband may be cheating on her in the grocery store that he works at. She's got a kid who's always in the bathroom, another kid who's always complaining, and she starts like spiraling down. Is she making all of this up in her mind? Is it actually things that are happening? It's got a pretty big climax, as the title tells you. It's got a little bit of a swerve. I didn't love it, but I still think that if you want to catch something at streaming, it's on Amazon Prime. You got the chance to catch yourself a nice little... I'm trying to compare it to another movie, but I guess that's a positive thing since it does its own little thing with the character study. So
Yeah.
if you're curious to see a nice little character study of a woman who may be spiraling down, you got it over on Amazon Prime.
Very
Shout
cool.
out Azura Sky, which also I guess I will say this because why not? I'm producer of the show. Azura Sky needed one more like top critic to be like certified or something, and the movie itself needed another one to get like certification. So it's just funny that we used to say what gatekeepers are or aren't.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna close out of this tab. I've Got Issues, Zach, is a new movie that is out. It is weird. Have you heard about this thing at all?
No, but it's an interesting title, and I see Macon Blair, who I like, is also in this movie.
It's made by Steve Collins, who made this kind of like an anthology movie, dealing with a bunch of different storylines, kind of connected, maybe not. He calls it a comedy about despair. It kind of reminds me of a super American version of a Roy Andersson film. For those who don't know Roy Andersson, he's the GOAT who has done movies such as these over here about endlessness, A Pigeon Sat on a Branch reflecting on existence. I know those aren't everybody's movies either, so of course this one may not be it. I don't think it's as good as these movies over here, but it's kind of like that stream of consciousness where you're just following these different characters who are going through really weird things. And I think he said what inspired him was how all these institutions that we have around us, they're failing us. So he gets Jim Gaffigan to narrate, to just say, humans, we struggle. Why do we struggle? So if that piques your interest, I know a lot of people weren't big fans of it. I didn't hate it, but again, I've also caught a lot of this man's work over here, which I think is superior. But if you're a fan of this man's work, yeah, you may not like it because it's too American, as you can see over here. Look at the ratings, yo. People are up and down on this movie. I didn't hate it that much, but it is out on Amazon Prime if you wanted to see something that just floats, I guess is the best way to describe it. You're just seeing a bunch of human beings just suffer. That's it. They're bored. So I guess that's the title right there. I've Got Issues. Yeah. Ravaged, though. There's a good little run that Amazon Prime had with a couple of these action thrillers, and this one caught my attention right at the end. It's pretty much this woman who is able to capture an incident that happens with her camera, and she realizes that it's a bunch of these dudes over here who feel that the government is failing them, and that all that these big companies want to do is come scope out the land, and as soon as they scope out the land, they're going to come in and buy it, right? So because she caught them doing something to one of these individuals who comes to scope the land, she's now out on the run. And I will say this, it's kind of like, you remember in Avengers how Black Widow's able to get herself out of any scenario? That is this movie right here. It's just putting her in different scenarios and how she's able to get out of it. At certain points, you're like, okay, this is a little bit too of a convenient scenario. Like, how dumb are these people who are holding you captive? And then you realize that they're supposed to be like these buffoon rednecks. So I guess it kind of works out. I enjoyed it. I thought it was okay. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I really like seeing her try to get out of all of these different scenarios that she was in. Decent action movie, even if it slowed down at time, but very low budget. Independent film, and you can catch it on Amazon Prime, as well as this one, which was made for $20,000. Again, not a perfect movie. It's just about this clown who knocks, and there's this family at the house who, or a couple of friends who are at the house who are kind of going through their own struggles, and this clown just comes and steals all of their phones. How he stole all of their phones, I have absolutely no idea. But, you know, shout out to someone making a movie, you know, especially trying to release it during the pandemic and being able to get an Amazon Prime deal. It's also over on Tubi. So if you wanted to catch this movie, it's out there as well. But there's this movie called Canadian Strain that is practically high maintenance in Canada, right?
Yeah, the plot description sounds a little bit like Freeland to me.
So, yeah, it's a mixture. Thank you. It's a mixture of Freeland and high maintenance, and where she is, you know, the girl who's going out dealing. But the problem is that now that it's legal in Canada, yeah, she can't do her stuff anymore, and all of her friends are moving on and making sure that they're regulated so that they can sell their stuff. If you're a fan of Disjointed, if you're a fan of, well, I guess that's it. I think the Disjointed is the only one I can compare it to, because Freeland is definitely a better version of this movie. High Maintenance is a much better series of this movie. So I guess shout out to those shows right here. But this was able to be up on Amazon Prime. So if you're curious to catch a struggling small business trying to make it out of changing times, there is this movie right here called Canadian Strain. There is a joke that they say in the movie, though, which I thought was hilarious. And they're like, you're too stressed out for someone who's on their own supply. And I think that's the best review of the movie as well. But like I said, Amazon had a little bit of a doc run. So let me go through these right here. Have you ever heard of Suzanne Heinz?
No, tell me about it.
Dude, she's insane. Practically, she has these photo shoots that she does with mannequins because her teacher once told her, try to break down a myth that's been told to you. And she's like, I don't even know what that means. She goes home and her mom tells her, where's your husband? She goes, got it. The myth of me having to have a husband. So she created this entire thing of like, oh, am I the perfect wife now? Because she has her mannequin husband. She's got her mannequin kids. She has her mannequin wedding. She has all of these different art installations that she does. But I'm going to say this. She is a true artist. Like, this is a woman who is creating things that cost her $8,000 to make a full show. Woman's making back $500. I think from an artist perspective, it was an interesting documentary to see how she goes about her art. There's even a point where she is documenting the cancer and the therapy that she's going through as well. But there was a quote that someone said in here about, do you want to live your life as a mannequin, or do you want to be a happy, soulful human being living the best of it? I didn't know too much about her art, so this is a pretty interesting documentary. If you wanted to catch it, that's over on Prime. As well as Tom Cruise and Eternal Youth. This is actually completely available over on YouTube. The company who made this, they made like a couple of docs that went up on Prime. They made one on Melania. They made one on America. They're just making documentaries on everybody. But the interesting thing about this, in my opinion, it's a video essay. It's just a breakdown of Tom Cruise as a star, breaking down his roles early on and how all of those roles kind of helped push people to join the army. And then after that, he wanted to kind of win an Oscar, so he kind of took roles with Stanley Kubrick that screwed up his relationship, all the way to the point where he is now, and where all of his roles kind of reflect the same Tom Cruise that does what? In Mission Impossible to Oblivion, he's the guy who can't have a family. So it's an interesting look at how he picks his roles and just the career that he's had throughout. Probably the most interesting thing, I had no idea that after War of the Worlds, Steven Spielberg said, I never want to work with this individual ever again. So Tom Cruise, especially after the clip that was released this past week, has a lot of attention on him. And this is a whole documentary about that. And like I said, you can catch it over on YouTube as well.
How much of this movie is focused like on Tom Cruise the actor versus like Tom Cruise the personality, and of course the like famed Scientologist?
Yeah, they cover all of it. I want to say it's a third for each one. They cover him, as a personality. They cover him when he's actually doing great performances, and how many times they came from the directors he was choosing to work with. They have a great breakdown on Magnolia and how at that point his father had passed. So that scene in Magnolia, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It was how he was technically yelling at his father more than he was, being that character. So they do a great job. Like I said, it's like a really great video essay that is a full documentary, which I know a lot of video essayists see their own things as. But yeah, you can catch this one on Prime. You can catch this one over on YouTube, like I said. It's a decent breakdown. I actually enjoyed this doc more than a couple of the other docs that I caught over on Amazon Prime, including this piece of crap doc right here, dude.
Uh-oh.
I had thoughts during this. It is about a filmmaker who follows his friend, who is a widower. He is also a pilot. They travel all around the world. He wants to see how he lives his life. He likes to use Tinder a lot. Zach, sometimes you have a documentary in where you get to choose if you're going to interact with the subject or not. You get to choose if what you're capturing is a little too disgusting. And especially when the subject is your friend, you are responsible as a friend to see what's happening.
Right.
They have gotten a lot of flack for calling this documentary fake. I wasn't there for the filming of this documentary, but a lot of the stuff that happens is questionable. For example, this man likes to use Tinder, but he don't got to use Tinder. When he's traveling and he ends up in China, he could just pick up any woman he wants. If he gets a disease, he doesn't care because, chances are they have it anyway. There is a lot of things that make you
Ooh.
question what is being captured here. I guess in its best case, it captures how a lot of these pilots are going out there and just having. They're spreading more than just the joy they think they are by having people go to their vacation spots. Controversial for sure, but it does that thing in where they stop the documentary to let you know, are what we doing? Is it okay? Do we look like scum? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But I guess that's what they were going for. But it's got one of the worst endings of the year. Whatever it tries to get done, I think it ruins itself even more by what they released. I'll talk spoilers with you afterwards, man. It kind of it borderline infuriated me as well. But hey, I guess it's a great exploration on the piloting world and how all these pilots just go to different places and they can do whatever they want as they're it's not layover, but while they're there waiting for their next flight. Disgusting. If that's what they wanted, well, they got it. It's a disgusting story and it's a disgusting film. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. As we wrap up, we have some HBO, we got some Shudder, and then we got Hulu.
Very cool.
Let's see. The Bee Gees. You a fan of the Bee Gees?
Yeah, some here and there. Not exactly like a super fan.
Yeah, this was a documentary where I'm not calling it Bohemian Rhapsody, but I saw the documentary. I really enjoyed it. I was like, yo, this is a really enjoyable documentary, a great breakdown on the band, how they started their falsetto, how they rose with disco, how they kind of fell with disco, the making of their music, how they were brothers from Australia. You know, the soundtrack's obviously fantastic because it's the Bee Gees, but because it's a Bee Gees official documentary, I go to my mom and I go, hey, they said this in the documentary. She went, yeah, that's not the case. So as we've talked about many times, you know, you can have your story out there, but many times it's the official documentary, it's the official biopic, and where that's what a lot of the population is going to consume and see as the truth. So still do your research on the Bee Gees, because this is clearly more on their side of their story, the story that they want to tell. But it was interesting to see, like this right here that they're covering, and this happened in Chicago, how a lot of people had an anti-disco rhetoric. Could that have been because idiots didn't know that disco didn't mean R&B, and a lot of people just didn't like R&B for certain reasons? But it was interesting to see that era. They brought in, I'm not sure if he's in the trailer, but Chris Martin from Coldplay, who breaks down how in this day and age, if you're going to be big, of course you're going to get people who don't like you, right? If you make a video and that video gets 1 million views, you're a moron if you don't think you're going to get dislikes. Well, when you're the Bee Gees and you're one of the first bands and everyone's buying your album, you had no idea why people didn't like you. So it was interesting to see that dissection of, as a band, they were one of the first to see that, yo, if you get too big, there's just going to be people who don't want to like you. And they kind of break down that aspect of it. But again, a good official documentary. I'm realizing more and more the official documentaries are dope because they get to have the music, but the unofficial ones, yeah, those are the ones that actually tell the story.
Those get into the really meaty issues.
Yes, sir. Those are the ones that, you know, if they're made by Netflix, they're not putting the warning at the top. So the Bee Gees, How You Mend a Broken Heart, documentary over on HBO, as well as this South by pick that I was able to catch a little bit earlier. It's now out. I don't know if you were able to catch this one.
I haven't yet, but you know, like you, I really like the cast. Gillian Jacobs, Jermaine Clement, who looks a lot like Mark Duplass to me on the poster, and of course I'm not wearing my glasses. Zoe Chow, Yorma Chacon. I like a lot of the people who are in this movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of great people in this movie, and I think the cast is better than the movie itself, but it pretty much follows a writer who is kind of going through the motions. You know, if she was a writer who may become a teacher, she's now hanging out with her teacher who was supposed to be a writer type thing. Again, I love the characters more than I like the pace of the story, I guess. But I didn't hate this one. I know one of the winners out of South by was what's the big one that won?
Shithouse.
That one won everything, I think, if I'm not mistaken. This is kind of the version of going back to your college days, but from an adult perspective. So I like a little bit of what the script covers there and how she may end up finding herself in the same scenario as the teacher. You know, she may become the teacher, and just like the teacher who kind of pries on students, she may find herself in a very similar scenario. But again, it is a fantastic cast. I like anything that a lot of these people are in. Hannah Marks, especially. She's like directing her own movies as well. So she's an actor, director, writer. We had talked about her in some of the earlier stuff as well. in terms of LME streams. But hey, if you're curious, it's out on HBO Max. At least it was. I see it's not even on here anymore. They move quick on the streaming stuff, but it is up on HOOPLA, I guess. So I would personally put this one as a streaming. So wait until this one is streaming back up on HBO Max, maybe. And I should check it out if it interests you.
Very cool.
Let's see. Shudder had a couple over here that
Shudder.
I have been enjoying, man. Shudder is not messing around. This is a movie I talked about earlier in the year. I believe this may have played at a festival as well, and now it's up on Shudder for you to watch. A lot of people were hating on this because now they realize that it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like the Promising Young Woman crowd that didn't like that movie is coming in and finding all of the ones that are kind of similar. If you are excited for Promising Young Woman, check this one out. If you've seen Promising Young Woman and you didn't like it, check this one out. Maybe you'll enjoy it a little bit more. This follows a mother who is just trying to fend for her kids, trying to do anything she can to keep this job. And, you know, maybe she finds herself in a scenario where she's not going to be that soft-spoken woman that she needs to be and gets into some nitty-gritty stuff. I really enjoyed this one. This would make, like I said, a great double feature with Promising Young Woman. And I really like the ending. There's a nice flip that they do at the ending as well. Great performances. It's shot beautifully. And I was engaged with the story the entire time. So check this one out over on, what did I say, Shudder?
Yeah.
If you have the chance, this would have been my top pick of the week. As well as this series, Eli Roth killed it, man. Yo, he's got this dope show. I believe it's originally plays on AMC. And then he comes and he like releases the entire season because they're on season 2 right now over on Shudder that breaks down, you know, exorcisms, that breaks down a variety of different just genres in horror. He is able to make like a video essay of, you know, horror. Let's see, he did like a cult one, right? So he's like breaking down his ideas with cults. But instead of like YouTubers who would cut to an interview, this man has the directors. This man has the cast. Is he talking about Midsommar? He's got Ari Aster right there. Is he talking about like a classic horror movie? He's got that classic director right there. Just the budget and the ability to have all this footage, man. There's one thing he does in this that I found hilarious. I get a lot of flack for sometimes talking spoilers. This man talks, he tells you, you should really check out this movie, and then tells you the ending right afterwards. So that's the only warning I can give to this show right here. But I just love seeing the passion that he has for horror and just, you know, the abundance of footage that he's able to cut to. I really love this series. I would highly recommend it if you're a horror fan, even if you're not a horror fan and you like filmmaking. It's a great breakdown that they have over on Shudder. And Shudder has been killing it with a lot of their making of stuff that they have. They have horror noir. And I believe there was another show series that talked about just different production stuff and production horror stories that they've had. So I really like this one. Definitely check it out over on Shudder.
Wayne Smalls wants to know if you have a favorite scary movie.
I'm a broken record. I always say the others. On Shudder right now, though, I can't think one off the top of my head. I'm not sure. But I'm going to say the others. If they're playing the others, definitely. Well, catch it before they do the TV adaptation that they're going to come around with. So
Host is probably my favorite 2020 release on Shudder. I don't know about others.
Oh,
but...
yeah. Host is on Shudder, yeah. And that dude got a 3-picture deal with Blumhouse just off
Right.
of a short that he did during the pandemic. So, yeah, shout out him. Shudder and Amazon Prime, as you can see right here, also have this one. It's called 8. I caught this almost 2 years ago. Well, yeah, around there. I caught this at Chicago International Film Festival. It was called 8, a South African horror story. It's pretty much a movie that completely takes place in this house right here. Wanted to give it a shout out. I haven't seen it in a long time. I was like, dang, I completely forgot about this movie. So I'm glad that two streaming services were able to pick it out. So if you're curious and seeing a nice international take on like not really a haunted house, but a horror story that mainly revolves around a house, definitely check this one out.
Very cool.
The last two that we have here come from Hulu. We have Spree and we have Endless. That Spree was cool, but Zach, you talk about it since I know you enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting movie. I think there are elements of it that I found really exciting. Because I think the director, Eugene Kotylarenko, is a guy who does kind of try to push the boundaries a little bit with his films. I've been seeing a lot of people discussing his works on Twitter, and definitely interested to check out more because Spree, it's about this wannabe influencer Kunkel, who's played by Joe Keery of Stranger Things fame, and he goes on this murder spree while streaming his ride sharing experience while ride sharing and streaming that live, and it plays into our ideas of viral fame and how things get uh, how things get pushed to violent extremes on the internet. While some of the believability is obviously not there, I found it a pretty satisfying comedy with some social commentary, even if it's very on the nose. It's just a fun idea to me. So I dug it, and I really dug the way that the movie interacts with our understanding of technology. Similarly to Unfriended a couple of years ago, how you have to have an understanding of how stuff like Facebook works, or,
Yeah.
or how Skype works to really fully process those stories. I like that Spree relies on our knowledge of live streams and of comments and how all that works in order to get its story across.
For sure. You and Amanda liked it way more than I would. Amanda's got a great breakdown on it. Definitely go check that one out. I want to cover it
Yeah.
in kind of like a LME compilation video, because this past year has had a lot of movies talking about influencers. And they're always killing people. If they're not killing someone, they're getting killed. There's never... I was about to say, one of my favorite ones would have been the Audrey Plaza one.
Oh, the what's it called? Ingrid Goes West from a couple years back.
But
Yeah,
then
that
when you
one's
really
amazing.
when you really think about it, though, even that one's got a little bit of that
Yeah.
angle as well. So it's interesting. Influencers are always killing themselves, which I guess is one way to look at the online content market. So for sure, Spree. It is now out on Hulu. This is out on Hulu as well. And I was telling Zach that this has a scene that is very interesting. I'm going to try to pull it up right here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not cut. It is not edited. This is just an in and out of a clip in the movie, a movie that covers a couple who get in a car accident. One of them dies, and they may or may not be seeing each other from the beyond. If you want a good version of this, but it's also not going to be a teen romance, it is a show called Forever on Amazon Prime. Zach put me onto that one. You remember that show, Zach?
Wait, sorry, what
Forever,
show?
Forever with what's his name?
Oh yeah, the Maya Rudolph and Fred Armisen show.
That one is
Yeah.
fantastic, talking about how when you die in the afterlife, you're still here, but no one can see you. This is the bad version of that. And by bad, ladies and gentlemen, terrible.
Just a random jump cut.
Terrible. Like, this thing really, this is one of the biggest sequences. No spoilers here. It's just the most random. It just cuts like that. This doesn't happen in the rest of the movie. I could not believe what was going on here. I don't know if they rushed this movie out to streaming, but hey, it's digital. If Kanye can edit his albums, I hope y'all go back and edit that scene out. I had no idea what was happening there, but yeah, endless. It's a romance that's out on Hulu. Can't recommend it, but yeah. If you were waiting on one of those and you
It's
didn't want to
there.
see them in theater, yeah, as Zach said, it's there. You want to know what's not there, Zach? Apple.
Tell me. Oh yeah.
Oh, what?
Where are
Where
new
am I-
releases from Apple?
I don't know, Zach. I'm trying to look for them, because if you... Oh, they did release something. It was a trailer to a damn Billie Eilish. Like, what? No. Apple Plus is getting people's money, and they're just releasing trailers as content. Hey, well, what about Disney Plus? What are we doing here, guys? Like, honestly, man, like, people are, when you take into account that, obviously, they had a show that came out. Disney Plus had, what was it? The Mando finale.
Yeah.
They really have y'all paying $2 an episode, and you don't even get to own them. Let's talk about that. It's crazy, man. Yeah. These streaming services, especially, compared to the stuff that we're talking about over here, I don't think they get an excuse. This is Disney. This is Apple. These are huge companies. Man, they got people paying $5.99, $6.99. I don't know what it's at right now. I'm paying it as well, but they're not releasing any content, man. That's terrible.
I mean,
Boo.
we're getting Soul on December 25th, but is that only happening because we're in the pandemic?
Literally, yeah. So I don't know what they would have been releasing if it was either way, but yeah. Again, got to give it to Netflix. Netflix had a good roundup of movies this past week. Prime had the most, and they had probably the best, in my opinion, with Education. I got the whole list from my preferences down below in the description. We also have that Letterboxd list that you see right here. It gets updated every week, though, so copy this list. I think you could duplicate it by next week if you wanted. We also have the whole playlist of the trailers down below. But let's answer some questions now that we've wrapped up all the movies of the week.
Yeah, we got some questions from the chat. Of course, you can send in some more questions. I'll be pulling some as we go. But Tashar had one that I thought was interesting. Steve Yun in Burning or Minari? What is the
Ooh.
better performance?
I prefer the one in Burning. I would be, or sorry. I prefer the one in Minari.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I just showed the trailer to my mom. Excuse me.
Mhm.
I almost started crying, man. My mom was
Yeah.
telling me the story about how when you get this like wishbone stick, you can find water, and I was like, "What? That's in a movie called Minari." And we were watching the trailer, and I was like, "Yeah, it's my favorite narrative of the year." I think, off the top of my head right now, I think I could say safely it's my favorite narrative.
Same.
But the stuff he does in Burning, he's he goes places in Burning, so I cannot deny that. What would you pick?
It's tough. They're both, because for a brief second I was like, well, he's doing dual languages in Burning, but he's doing dual languages in them both, and he's doing like
Mm-hmm.
accent work, and it's really tough. I think I just really connect with Minari.
Yep.
So it's slight edge to that one, but man, he's on a roll right now with these
Stacked.
performances.
Don't forget he was in Sorry to Bother You. I love that. He is one of the greatest that we have right now. I don't know how long it's going to take for people to get it. I think a good chunk get it, but I don't think he's as mainstream. I think the most people know him by still is The Walking Dead, but he has been putting in performance after performance.
Yeah,
He's a
Sorry to
powerhouse.
Bother You. He's awesome in Okja. He's really fun in too.
So, yeah, no, one of the best.
Absolutely. Devesh asks, can a movie be judged on the genre of film alone? He's specifically talking about Midway, which felt more like an action movie than like a historical record. What do you think? Do you judge a movie differently based on its genre and what it's trying to play towards versus what it's actually about?
So for me, I kind of like cut it into thirds. One being my personal opinion on the movie, how I liked it, what the director is going for, but then the technical stuff. And to me, that includes genre. So even though this is doing a great job, and it is over on HBO Max if y'all wanted to catch it, even though it's doing a great job at covering uh, everything that it needs to as an action movie, and you can love it as an action movie, it's still a real world event. And if you're to me, if you're ever going to use a real world event, I think you do owe a little bit to the actual events in the story. So it just depends on how both of them play out. I don't think a genre should trump a true story. Um, yeah, I guess I don't think a genre should trump what the story is actually trying to tell.
Do you think it's any different for somebody like Tarantino, who maybe handles his like historical fiction with a little bit more of like an autorial distinct approach rather than something like Stonewall, which is
Mm-hmm.
just a rewriting of history?
Well, the difference is Stonewall is trying to represent a whole group.
Right.
Tarantino, I don't know what he's trying to represent, and he's calling his movies Once Upon a Time. Like his are clearly fiction. That's my thing. It's Patriots Day that tries to be something else than it really is, where it's just what's his name, Mark Wahlberg, trying to come off as the hero, and they fabricate certain events in that stuff. I was like, if there's casualties, if there's anything dealing with actual people's stories, I didn't think Midway was that bad. I understand what they're saying because it's Roland Emmerich. He does everything in terms of being really big budget action set pieces. But in terms of this, I guess if we're talking about this specific movie right here, because it's a case by case basis, I didn't think this one veered too much away. But again, that just depends on your thoughts on what he did with Pearl Harbor as well. He did Pearl Harbor, right?
Yeah, I think he did Pearl. He did Independence Day for sure.
Okay, I don't think he did Pearl Harbor.
Maybe
I
it
think
was. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like the distinctive like disaster movie guy. But yeah, no. Who did Pearl Harbor? Was that Bay?
Oh,
No,
blanking on.
Bay
Yeah, it
did
might have been Bay.
Armageddon.
Yo, but Roland did Stonewall. that you were just mentioning, and this has been on my to watch because it's so bad list. I have been recommended this as that, like in my videos of the what was it? The double or the I can't remember what it was. There was this twin Elvis Presley movie. That's one of my favorite bad movies, so bad it's good movies of all time, and a lot of people kept recommending Stonewall. I don't know if you've seen Stonewall, if it's actually that category or not.
I haven't seen Stonewall.
Okay, I've had this on my list just because people have said like, "Yo, watch it," because he does too much with it. And if you've seen him, like he does the same thing with Godzilla. If you've seen White House Down, he does the same thing there. I mean, 2012 didn't cover that accurately, I guess. But yeah, someone had asked. Marianne Sargent said thoughts on Upload on Amazon Prime. I don't know if you've caught the show, but
No, but I know this is one of your favorites on Amazon.
I wouldn't call it one of my
No?
favorites. Only
Favorites
because
on Amazon?
I don't know, dude. Amazon's got a lot of great stuff. I don't think it would be top 5. I don't hate it. I
Okay.
guess. But it is a series dealing with kind of the afterlife where you get uploaded to kind of this digital dimension. I know they got greenlit for a season 2. It'd be in my top 10, I guess is what I'm saying. When I say favorites, I feel like it'd be in my top 5, and I think I have a good 5 from Amazon. This would probably be like 7. I think it was really fun and enjoyable. I like a lot of the jokes that they make because the series is taking place, I think, past 2024. So they kind of have jokes about like who's going to be running in the future. They have Facebook running as an entity. Everything has been corporatized. So there's a lot of like fun little jokes that may not be fully jokes that are in there. And you're following this dude who is now at the whim of his girlfriend who is paying for him to be uploaded in this afterlife. Would you be uploaded in an afterlife, Zach? Or you just want to go the old-fashioned way?
I've got enough of life is long enough, I think.
But you can customize yourself however you want, Zach.
We'll see. We'll see how advanced it gets.
Shout out Movie Files. He's wishing us happy holidays. Shout out to you, man. Hope you've been doing well. We did a couple
shouts
videos.
to Elliot.
Yeah, over on Intercut. Some Let Us Explains with him. Definitely go check out his stuff. He's been getting a lot of stuff early. Man, Elliot was getting some stuff before us. I was like, damn, Elliot's hustling. So shout out the boy, man. He's been doing a great job over there.
Yeah, he had a question actually. Who has the best assembled cast of 2020?
That would be Regina Kings. That would be Regina Kings. One Night in Miami. Do you have a different one?
I mean, to me, that's what I'm hoping wins, like SAG Best Ensemble. But the thing is about Elliot's question, it makes me think about people who I liked going into the movie, and like I had never seen Kingsley Ben-Adir or Eli Goree before I watched One Night in Miami. I love them now, but I hadn't seen it before. I wasn't a huge fan of Happiest Season, but I love the cast of Happiest Season.
Okay.
Aubrey Plaza, Mackenzie Davis, Kristen Stewart. Movie that I liked a little bit more, though, that had a really good cast. Promising Young Woman. Again, we're going to talk about it more probably next week, but Carey Mulligan, Bo Burnham, of course, Laverne Cox, Alison Brie, Christopher Mintz-Plasse in some smaller roles, even Sam Richardson from Detroiters is in this movie. That's a really good cast, man.
No, I think a lot of people have had great casts. You want to know another one that comes to mind?
Shoot.
Small Axe. I really like how they were able to use such a big cast. Let's see. What other questions do we got?
Jay asked us, what do you guys think about the Sundance lineup? What movies stand out to you
all right.
guys?
Jay, I'm going to have that be the closing one. So make sure to bring up Jay because that one we just went through it. We mentioned a couple of little picks over on Intercut. But I want to end it on that because they have some updates on what y'all need to do for Sundance as well. And I want to make sure that on the streams we keep you up to date. So save Jay's question. I know. Did you end up finishing the whole lineup?
Yeah, I looked over it a little bit more. I still have some of the same standouts, but yeah,
okay.
we'll save that for the end.
Gotcha. I want to call out Yento right here since I had popped it up. They had said, thoughts on The Wilds on Amazon. Will you make an LME on it? Alina just finished it. I caught 2 episodes because I'm a sucker when someone says, yo, this is the new Lost. And I always go in knowing that it's not going to be the new Lost. But it is this series where a bunch of girls get lost in an island. But it may or may not be something else. If you've seen The Society, I think that is a better version of this teen drama. But I may make a whole video on it because it has a lot of twists and turns, and I think it would be something to make a fun little LME commentating on. So, um, I think it's okay. Again, I would recommend The Society, but I haven't finished The Wilds yet. Alina said it was okay as well. She preferred The Society also. Let's see.
Cool.
Do you got one?
Devesh asked, "What's the most ambitious sequel ever made?" He watched Doctor Sleep this week and has huge respect for the filmmakers behind that one. Yeah, shouts to Mike Flanagan.
Mm-hmm.
We love the Haunting series. I heard director's cut is better than the theatrical cut of Doctor Sleep. I haven't seen either yet, so I might have to check that one out. But yeah, any ideas on what the most ambitious sequel ever made was? And I mean, obviously, aside from James Cameron's Avatar 2, which is now,
Yeah, of course.
a decade of development.
For sure. Off the top of my head, not sequels. I guess I deal more with remakes. I'd say like I'm more excited for the Dune remake and what they're gonna do because they've learned their lessons more so. I'm finding remakes with the right people more of a positive than a sequel that's just trying to extend a franchise, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Right.
But I guess The Godfather always comes to mind. Like that just took everything and just woof. It's a classic for a reason. There's a reason why our upcoming movies are just making ups of The Godfather as we've covered in the past.
Yeah, I mean, to take a movie like The Godfather and then continue the story, but also simultaneously do some sort of prequel to it is just about one of the most audacious moves in all of cinema. I don't know why this is where my head went to, but I'm thinking about Evan Almighty, which is the most expensive comedy made. That's the only reason my head is going there, because I know how much money that movie lost. It cost $200 million to make Evan Almighty.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Yo, what were they doing? did the Lord help them out with it? Like what? That's ridiculous. That's crazy. It doesn't even compare to Bruce Almighty, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, not even close.
Oh, bro, you had me for a second. I thought you were actually gonna say it was better than Bruce. No. I was like, no. But no, I guess that's interesting. Let's see. Tommy had asked a question about. We'll do a couple more and then we'll wrap it with the Sundance one. What classic comedy would you like to see given the horror treatment, similar to Freaky and Happy Death Day? Mine would be Big, because there's no way a kid magically turning to an adult would be fun. That's hilarious. Yeah, that is interesting. Obviously, the dude from Happy Death Day, he's been like combining different things together. Big would be hilarious because they would definitely be doing completely different things.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually. Somebody's going to steal that.
For sure. And I think, even one of the ones that we saw while we were watching Endless, the idea that they were still there in the afterlife but don't do a darn thing made absolutely no sense to me, especially when you take some of the characters who he meets in the afterlife as well. It's like, no, y'all could have done different things. Clifford the Big Red Dog should not look the way it should, and I feel like a real version of that would be a horror movie on Shudder. But yeah, I think we're reaching that point in movies where in the early 2000s, we would just accept anything. And now we're looking back at those ideas that we had and we would make them horror movies nowadays. So,
what about a Cheaper by the Dozen movie?
Like what would you make it?
Like we've had the Demon Child movies before. Oh. What about 12 Demon Children?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And they're even remaking, what is it? The Orphan. They have another one for the Orphan that's coming out as well. Like she's reprising her role as, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen The Orphan. Yeah, no, I could see that. I had just finished watching in the Eli Roth show we were talking about. They had a whole episode on Demon Kids. Why are they the scariest darn things? I saw a whole thing on witches. No problem. Ghosts. No problem. A kid with black eyes? Nope. Nope. All right, let's see what else we got. Have you seen this Monster Hunter movie? I know that there was a couple of backlash to it, considering that one of the biggest places it was going to get its money was in China, and I believe they had like leaked the line about this Chinese line that they had in the film, pretty much ruining its entire chances. And of course, it would come from Paul W.S. Anderson.
It got banned from Chinese cinemas for like a racially insensitive joke, I guess. Which, considering the state of movie theaters right now, that is a huge loss of revenue. there's this like weird contingent of people who rep for Paul W.S. Anderson just super hard, and I
Bro,
cannot think of like a more mediocre director.
is crazy. I want to put a Paul W.S. Anderson fan and a Wes Anderson fan and a what's his name? What's our third Anderson? The best Anderson of them all.
Paul
Paul
Thomas.
Thomas Anderson. Yeah. I want to see the fans duke it out because I
Yeah.
feel that a Paul W.S. Anderson fan will come in more prepared.
Right.
They rep him harder. It's crazy. Yeah. And I don't. What is it? Is it the Resident Evil franchise?
Probably.
I don't know. I don't get it. But hey, I mean, love what you love. Tashar over here had a super chat. Shout out to Shar, always supporting the Intercut podcast. And I mentioned Green Knight and Zola. Zola, I believe, now has a release date. They're put you at
In June.
June of
Yes.
next year. We still believe that they're going to be cutting out a couple of stuff from
Yeah.
this movie and probably doing a clever digital play at it.
Oh,
But
but shouts to Taylor Page, who I was
Oh,
super excited
yes.
to see in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
she popped up and I was like, bruh, who is she? And Alina's like,
Those
dude,
eyes.
it's Zola. And I was like, oh, it's, because then that means that, because Domingo's also in Zola. So we had two Zola stars in Ma Rainey's as well. But yeah, dude,
It's a Zola reunion before Zola's even out.
she is going to be a star. Her interviews that I was looking up on Ma Rainey, she's just the best. She was like, how'd I get Ma Rainey? Look, if Viola calls, or she goes, if Denzel calls, yeah, answer. If me Viola calls, yeah, answer. Yeah, I wish her the best. I think Zola's going to, I hope Zola pops for sure. I think it's
Yeah.
going to do well.
One question I didn't bring up for you when we were talking about Ma Rainey was about Viola Davis's performance. First of all, what did you think about it? And second of all, were you also as surprised as I was by how limited in terms of just screen time it was? I almost felt like she should be a supporting actress nominee rather than a lead actress
I want to
nominee.
make a whole video on it. I know we'll talk about it more on Intercut, but I agree with you, man. I still think she killed it with what she did. And to me, it's like a lot of people don't think she did a good job, but I was like, you're just confused by the amount of screen time she got. Which begs the question, a movie called Ma Rainey and a play that I believe may have been 3 hours. Ma Rainey's 90 minutes, dude. I had no idea it was that short. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Did they cut some stuff out? I didn't even think that Chadwick Boseman was going to be the lead as much as he was. I don't know if the movie was reconfigured to make it seem like that. But again, that's all just speculation. I was just surprised that she wasn't in it as much. But her
Yeah.
character is incredible, man. Could talk completely about her, which I want to, but it would talk more spoilers. I thought she still killed it. I thought she did a fantastic job. She was talking about what inspired her with the fat suit, because she gained weight for it, but they still made a fat suit for her, and I know that was like a big discussion along with her lip syncing. The
Yeah.
lip syncing bothered me a little bit more.
Just because the voice
Just
is
'cause-
so different
yeah.
from her voice.
And I've
Like it-
done a lot of music video work, so I just know.
Yeah.
But she said she based the suit off of, they told her, base it off of any body you want. And like literally any body you want. And she based it off of Aretha Franklin. So yeah, there's that little fun fact, I guess. But no, she did a fantastic job. And she did that whole Coke scene in one take. So there you go. One of the GOATs.
Yeah.
Let's see. One more and then we'll do our Sundance. I don't know if you got one.
Mega Stormy asked, "Are you excited for the upcoming Disney slate, Marvel, Star Wars, etc.?" This is a topic we got into
Yep.
on the upcoming episode of Intercut 94 with Amanda the Jedi. So look forward to that discussion over on the Intercut channel. But I don't know if you want to give anybody a little bit of a preview on your thoughts on what is it? 10 new Marvel shows, 10 new Star Wars shows, 15 new Disney Pixar movies. Whole bunch of stuff coming out.
So in terms of Star Wars, in my opinion, I believe, let me just go back to just the main chat right here. I could care less for any of the Star Wars stuff. I think it's interesting. Shout out to everybody who is now going to get The Mandalorian times 10, because clearly they saw that that's where the money's at. Great for y'all. I hope it does well, but it seems like a lot of them will be canceled as well. Or changed up, it seems. The Disney Plus, the animation ones, I don't mind them. I think they're going to be great for families and kids to be able to not just have a movie that they're going to be repeating, but they'll have, I know it's not going to be 10 hours worth of content, but it's probably going to be like 5 hours with an entire 10-episode series on properties people really like, I don't care too much about Big Hero 6, but I can't be a hypocrite and then be excited when I saw the Moana one, and I'm curious to see what they do there.
Right.
I just hope they don't feel too much like filler. But I think the Marvel series, because this is going to be the first time that they're going to be pushing off these TV shows, all of the promises that the Netflix ones had, and they build a fan base. Well, what is Disney going to do now that it's fully them? Are all of these movie stars just going to be regulated to TV with all the switches that they're making? I don't know. But yeah, those would be my quick thoughts on it.
Yeah, and this is also something we discussed on the podcast, but Pixar is a movie studio. We don't know yet if they make good TV, and I'm curious, Mandalorian is successful, but they're trying to really put this into full gear, and they don't have that proven track record yet that I'm not sure if we're going to want to watch all of those shows.
Yeah. I will say the best part about the announcement has been the memes. All of the Buzz Lightyear memes have been the funniest thing in the world, so I will give them that. But yeah, we talk about it more on Instagram. Definitely go check that out with Amanda the Jedi. But let's get into the final one, the Sundance picks. We have a secondary, more of a list Letterboxd page over here at the A to Z show, where we compile all of the film festivals. We compiled some of our favorite film festivals of this past year. And it's not just our favorites, it's the entire list. So you can click on through and duplicate it, do whatever you need to do with it. But it's practically all of the films that are on here. If they're not on here, they'll be in the description. But yeah, we got this one that we put together here for all of the films that will be playing at Sundance 2021. What are some of the standouts for you right now?
Oh, I mean, there's a few ones that I think are interesting. We're All Going to the World's Fair, I think, has some very dynamic looking pictures. I'm super curious about that one. What's the one with Gerard Carmichael that we were talking about?
On the count of three. That's probably right now sitting at my number one.
Same.
I'm really excited for this one. Obviously, if there's one thing you need to know from Sundance is that they will not have posters for the longest time, but they do have some stills up right now over on the Sundance page to get a better look at it. This was one of the first one that popped out to me. It looks pretty good. Has some of the writers from Rainey. Another one from the U.S. Dramatic that I'm looking forward to is I Was a Simple Man that you see right here, based off of the director's grandpa, who died in front of him, and everyone kept telling him he was a simple man, and he was like, nah, I don't think he is. And he made a whole documentary about his grandfather's past. I think that sounds fascinating. In terms of world cinema, I think they also had, I think my stacked categories right now is U.S. Dramatic and World Cinema. They had a lot of good ones, from One for the Road and Primetime that looked pretty good. I don't know if any docs stood out to you, because this is going to be the first year where the Sundance president actually came from a documentary background.
Right. I didn't look as closely at the docs, although I did see that Edgar Wright has a documentary in the festival.
Yes, sir.
As well as there's a Rita Moreno documentary. I'm always
forward.
excited to watch Rita Moreno for a bit.
Agreed.
So definitely going to be some good stuff. It's Sundance typically is responsible for some of my favorite documentaries. So.
And there's some great producers coming in with some of these that are being made over here. Or is it Warkong Wai, I think, was producing one of them. I can't find it in my notes which one exactly it was. It might have been in the World Cinema. And then How It Ends as well is another one that I'm really excited for. Zoe
and
Lister
isn't there
Jones.
also that Sion Sono movie with Nicolas Cage? I forget what the name of it is.
Yeah, that one's definitely in the midnight section. Sundance always has some crazy, let me see, maybe Coming Home in the Dark? No.
I was also curious, I don't know if you saw the breakdown of Pleasure from Ninja Thyberg. It's about a 20-year-old who leaves her small town in Sweden for Los Angeles to get into the porn industry, which reminds me a little bit of course.
Mope?
Yep.
Dude, that's in my notes. I went, is this going to be the version of Mope that we thought we were going to get when we saw that movie?
Because this one was a 2020 Cannes selection that, of course, because Cannes never really happened, has been pushed off. I
put this one all the way to the top. Alina's like, what are you doing? And I was like, it seems authentic. This has been getting a lot of buzz. And yeah, the first thing I said, Alina and I looked at each other. We went, this is the better version of Mope. Yeah, I'm excited for this one over here. And I know there's a short as well, so you can catch the short. There's actually a couple of shorts for a lot of these, which I think is dope. One of these is called Something is Burning. And they have this, right here. I think it's The Blazing World. Yeah, Carlson Young, because she wrote it, directed it, and stars in it. She's got a short for that. It's called The Burning World as well, and that one is up on Prime for you to catch. They just uploaded it, so it's interesting to catch the shorts to see if you're interested in seeing the full feature. So that's the one thing that I will definitely say in terms of compiling your list, because I've been getting a lot of questions from people going like, what do I do? Do I go for the day pass? Do I go for the full pass? I think the day passes are going to be people's best bets if you're not trying to get individual tickets or go all out on the $350 pass. But I'd say the best thing is to just look at the different selections in terms of the categories. And right now, to me, U.S. Dramatic and World Cinema Dramatic are the top dogs, in my opinion. I think they're going to have some of the best selections, but we'll see.
Tushar also asked if what distribution would look like for these Sundance films. After how long will we get to see them on streaming? Well, first of all, this is a really interesting year in that Sundance is normally not online at all. And of course, this year it's going to be all online. So, that's a unique chance to get to see these movies early. But if you're wanting to catch them more at the end of their release cycle, after you've heard which ones are the really good ones, based on what we've seen this year, a lot of them start to come out, in the months following Sundance, but really towards the end of the year, once we get into like the fall award season push.
Yep.
And then the ones that are maybe less hyped or don't have the big movie stars will occasionally come out like spring or summer of the following year. So I'd venture to guess that every movie in the Sundance 2021 lineup will be released between like March 2021 and June 2022.
We're going to try to update this list as well. That's the beauty of having these. If anything gets picked up, I believe they have a way for us to like put notes here. So I will put the release date, because one of the biggest things that I always say is if the movie's going to come out, Sundance is in January. If the movie's coming out in February, the movie's coming out in March, I go as far as April. I just wait for it. I always feel that it's better to catch the movies that are going to have a later release, and even more so the movies that may not even get a release. Those are the ones to catch, as opposed to the ones that will be out in just a mere couple of weeks. Unless, of course, that movie's Promising Young Woman. But Zach and I have talked about how that played out. We didn't know there was going to be a pandemic, but we will be updating the release dates here. That way oh, okay, let me save my money and try to get another one, knowing that that's secured a release in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, we got this whole list up over here. Definitely check that out. Again, shout out to everyone who tuned in today. Like we said, our picks of the week, recapping what we saw this past weekend. Rainey on Netflix, definitely check it out. Some of the best of the best. VOD's got a good amount from Another Round, Beast Clawing at Straws, Marona's Fantastic Tale, I think would top a lot of animation lists if they could. And The Last Blockbuster. If you're a fan of blockbusters, it's a good blockbuster. Small Axe was... Well, see, I'm already calling it Small Axes the whole show. But Education was one of the best films out of the collection, up there with Red, White, and Blue for me. We also had a couple of interesting documentaries that I enjoyed over on Amazon Prime. Shudder is coming in with just a really good slate of horror films. And I wouldn't even call A Good Woman Is Hard to Find a horror movie, a horror drama. So that's cool to see that they're expanding on not just slashers and all the, I don't want to call it generic horror, but what people usually think of in horror, and expanding it to movies that have really great performances, really great scripts. So shout out to them, but not a shout out to Disney Plus and Apple that haven't released a darn thing. We're going to end it on a super chat. Look at this. Shout out Renee, says that Fargo season 4 with Chris Rock. Mind-blowing, it seems. I haven't caught up in Fargo in a little bit. But come January, that's usually the time where we've caught up on all the movies and I start catching up on my TV show. So it seems like Fargo's going to be one that I might have to catch. Have you caught any?
I haven't caught any of the Fargo TV show. That's probably my biggest my biggest like missing TV show. I've heard it's so good.
I really liked the first one, season 1. So yeah, that's one of the ones that once I have more time to dive into all these TV shows, these 10-hour projects, I'm excited. And then, of course, Sundance starts, and then it's 72 movies to catch. But appreciate everybody watching this week. Let us know your picks of the week. And until next time, keep watching movies, and we'll see you guys later.